Hey everybody, what's up? We're here with a timeless reading. Welcome. The first card that we have out is Hermit. Hermit represents Virgo. And we also have Ace of Swords. Okay. To have Hermit and Ace of Swords, this looks like you went looking for answers and that's exactly what you found. Ace of Swords means that what you were looking for, you have achieved exactly that. I feel like that's very straightforward, these two energies coming through. This means you can understand something, you can see something now. This may be something that you want to tell now. You know, if you went looking for something and you found it, it doesn't look like it looks like you did this independently. Like on your own, you sort of went and looked for something, you found what this was that you were looking for. Now you feel like you have a sense of clarity that you did not have before. And having two Knight of Cups feels like there's somebody that you want to share this with. Like, hey, I reflected, I figured this out, I found this thing out, and I'm seeing it very clearly, and I want to communicate that with you now. Like, even something that you want to share with someone, something that you want to present to them. There's a word that's coming through, but I don't think that it's literal. Okay, if I had to describe what it was without like saying the actual label of this, it's like something that's meant to take place in a certain spot that actually took place in a different place. The thing still took place, but it happened in a place other than where it was like meant to happen or supposed to happen, and there can be issues that happen because of that. I hope that that's I hope that that's coming through in a way that is tangible. It feels like, let's talk from an I place, okay? I looked into something, I was trying to figure something out. I figured out what that was that I was looking for. Now I want to share it with this person. What that can mean too is that I'm ready to make moves based off of this realization that I had, and I feel like heart and mind are connected. And because of that too, it strengthens my spirit to be walking on this path now. We have a Page of Wands over here, which means that I get the sense that this is sort of leading to you walking a certain path. There can be something that you're starting, something that you're ready for, something that you're beginning to do now, where you feel like this is the way that I'm going to be walking now, and this is where I'm supposed to be now. You could have a hang up or two about this, or you can just feel nervous or like unsure. Could be thinking a lot about it. That's another way this can come through. You know, it could feel lost in thought. A path of peace that you're walking. I wonder too if you're also realizing more of the signs of when you need to pull back or when you need to take care of yourself, like signs leading up to you needing a break or you needing to rest or you needing to regulate or disengage. feel you even walking to something that had been stationary or had been unmoving and kind of like preserved until you got to that point, and then when you get there it feels like opening something up. Like I'm even seeing the vision of like a sealed tomb or something like that, and you had to look for something, you had to find it, you had to come all this way, and then you get to that place, and when you get to it, it's been there waiting for you with the Four of Swords, feels like sealed. And then I get this notion of like you prepared and now you're there and you're ready to unseal that. Yeah, that's how I'm seeing this Four of Swords. And actually, in this Four of Swords, it kind of feels like that anyway. Like, see how there's this body on top of it, but it's like stone? This feels like you walking up to something, walking up to this, like, here, I'm ready for this adventure, and something that had been sealed before. Feel like you're going to unseal it. And nothing had been happening with this. It was sort of just waiting for you to step upon it. But you had to, there was something that you needed to know. You had to figure some stuff out. You had to find some answers before you could do this. And then follow this calling of yours in this direction. And now it feels like something was just like waiting for you to arrive. Do something. Okay. Having Hermit and having King of Wands below. King of Wands is about measured action that you take, especially when you have Virgo above it. Virgo's thinking the precipitation prior to doing something. Like really thinking about what you're doing, thinking about your place. Why are you doing what you're doing? Measured action again, ultimately, and feel like I'm clear when I'm showing up because I thought about it and I thought about my place and I thought about what the best thing would be for me to do here and how I expect myself to be showing up and what I expect myself to be doing. Also feeling confident within yourself because you actually thought about something rather than just did it and you're like, okay, hope that this goes well, hope that this is fine. I'm seeing a refined energy here. This feels like a very thoughtful King of Wands, where King of Wands isn't always the most thoughtful energy. Sometimes it can be a little bit abrasive, that part of us that just does things sometimes. Not that there's not thought behind it, but it can be motivated by something other than thinking something through. You know, it can be motivated more so by a calling that you feel, like the calling of your spirit, and less so like thinking about things in that manner. More so I'm just responding to what's going on and going with my gut or going with my instinct, and there isn't, again, always this thought before it. But this can even be something that you're breaking down and analyzing. You can be thinking about your behavior. You can be thinking about your choices. You can be thinking about what you do or why you do what you do. Or maybe in this specific situation, those things, these thoughts can be applied to what to do. Having Ace of Swords, I feel like you come out of something after you've thought about it and you're sure about how to show up and you're sure about how you want to handle it. You're sure about the choices that you're going to make. So this isn't like, I'm going to wing it and hope that it turns out okay, which sometimes that is what's called for. This looks like a time when you felt like, I need to think about this before I go and do something. I don't want this to feel impulsive. I don't want this to feel like a reaction. I want this to feel like a proper response to what I'm feeling already and even what's happened. I do feel strongly that something was just waiting for you to get there and take the lid off of it. And so if you never traipsed this way, you may have never gotten to that point to open it, but because of where you are now, you're ready to unleash something. I feel too, again, to have in this corner, I see lately, I've been seeing the corners of the readings be connected. When you have almost like an opposition that's being connected by a common line. King of Wands is about taking action and showing up, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna express. It's a lot of movement, it's a lot of outward movement that starts from within and pushes its way forward. When we have this connecting with Four of Swords, this is about doing things that strengthen peace within your life. This is also about, too, knowing when you should be showing up and doing something, and also knowing when to disengage. Four of Swords, King of Wands, like showing up and doing the thing. Four of Swords, resting. Four of Swords is about your peace of mind. Four of Swords can be about regulating. And having Hermit here too, it feels like not going around very dysregulated, just like ping-ponging off of everything, like pinball. You know, just doing all of this stuff, and it's just mass chaos, and then you'll just have to try to figure it out, which again is fine sometimes if you want to do things in that way. This feels like a more methodical, thoughtful way of doing things. And having Hermit above King of Wands, this is like, before I show up and show out and do whatever I think I should do here, I'm actually going to take time to really feel this out and to tune in and to check myself as well, where I feel like clear-headed as I move forward. And that being really valuable, because King of Wands can have a tendency sometimes to be overindulging, explosive as well, can be. Again, so it's not bad for those things to be. Sometimes they're very necessary for this situation that we're in. But given this, it feels very much like it's important to know when to take a step back, when to cool it, which isn't always the easiest thing for the King of Wands to do. There can be a part of you that feels like, I need to do something, I need to take action. And Four of Swords can be, you actually sit down instead. You know, like sit down and meditate, sit down and breathe, go to sleep. Like think about what you need for yourself. Why are you not feeling at peace? Or what do you need to do to sort of get to the mental state or regulate? Especially when you're faced with a lot of feelings. Okay. So this does seem like a bit of a breakthrough here. So what is this breakthrough about? What are these answers that you're finding? It feels like it's about this whole big experience that you're having, trying to sort something out and really know what you're leaning towards ultimately. It's like if you have a whole sort of like messy, unput together collage in front of you, it feels like taking all of the pieces and putting them where they're supposed to go so you can see the bigger picture. So instead of it just looking like chaos in front of you, something actually makes a lot of sense. And I wonder too, with Hermit and Seven of Cups and then also Knight of Cups here, there could have been some feelings, some different ways that you could say something or express yourself, or even trying to get to the bottom of what you were feeling enough to be able to articulate that. And until that point, it's like, should I say this? Should I say that? Should I make that move? And then this is going to be the figuring out of how to step forward and what you want to be articulating ultimately in a way that feels true and honest. Like, this is really how I feel. This is actually what I want to say. self-control being part of this too. Having Seven of Cups and having the Devil can mean that there's something that comes upon your path when you're already dealing with something and it feels very distracting you from the point, but may convince you that it is the point, and having to figure that out. Ultimately obfuscating the truth, but this is going to help you anyway get there, get to where you're trying to go. I feel like you could have potentially almost started, it's like something had to be addressed, but it can be something that's difficult to address because you can feel part of you pulling in one way and then another part of you pulling in another way, and then that just makes things confusing because how do you want to deal with this, especially when it's something that you may not want to have to push away because you feel so attracted to whatever this is. When you feel so magnetized towards whatever this is with the Devil, it's like really something that if you get caught up in it, you can get really lost within there and you don't really mind drowning within it until you sort of wake up on the other side and you're like, what just happened? But yeah, having the Devil here, this feels like seeing that there was potential for you to walk down a path, and it's not that it didn't call to you, but analyzing what about that is calling to me, and is that something that I want to answer? And I do feel like this has been coming up more often too, seeing the Devil come up within the readings, and it can be something that materializes on our path that is an option and feels almost viable until we realize what's really behind it and why we even heard that call in the first place. Like why that was able to pull us in the first place. And then how you deal with that with Temperance. How is that mitigated? Temperance is there to mitigate the energy. But yeah, it's something that can really have you not seeing clearly. Some of you, this was a relationship thing. It looks like something going on with you and another person, actually. You may decide to take a little bit of a break. When I say break, I mean more so if you feel like you're interacting with somebody and you do not feel grounded and you don't feel centered and you don't feel clear-headed, and there's more this... You know when you get kind of amped up and you can tell that you are, and that you're not thinking the way that you would be thinking if you were grounded? And that type of logic and reason and your connection with your values can be a bit on the back burner, and something else sort of comes up and takes place. Feels like getting back to this regulated state where you feel peaceful in your mind and about how this interaction is going. Having Hermit and having the Lovers, it looks like this is a deep analysis that's taking place of a relationship, but beyond that, it feels like the correct way to take action when it comes to you interacting with this person. Four of Swords above the Lovers can indicate like, hey, I'm gonna have to put this on hold until I can absolutely ground my energy, and then I can come back here and interact. So when I say taking a break maybe from a connection, this can be more so if I'm not in the right space, headspace, and I'm not... It's not even just not thinking clearly. It feels like the part of you that may not want to think and may just want to do things, but coming from a place that you know is a bit of an ungrounded place, you know, can be wanting to say things, wanting to make moves, and it is definitely something that you're feeling, but figuring out if that's a path that you want to step upon. This feels like something that can really, you start walking that way and it starts to end up dragging you down the path. Analyzing what's being created through what it is that you're communicating and what you're thinking and how that manifests with you and this person. the devil is something very intense. The devil is something that can be very difficult to deny or shy away from, because it feels so, it can in the moment feel really amazing to be pulled like down that river. At the same time, there's more to it than that. And so getting to the bottom of where this is coming from, it can take a little bit of it can put you back in a position where you feel in control rather than something having control over you. I almost get this feeling of like, as soon as the devil like arrives on the scene here with you and this person, it can feel almost like something gets activated. It's probably a placement that you have in your synastry with this person. It's probably something going on within your synastry. Anyway, just to describe where it can come from, it can be lots of other things too. Just one of many, right? Like astrology can just be one way of categorizing something and understanding something. Nothing is the be all end all, like everything is the be all end all. You can talk about your upbringing, you can talk about your family situation, you can talk about what you've been exposed to, what you haven't been exposed to, the astrology, like your culture, you know, like all of these different things, lenses that you can look at this through. When the devil comes onto the scene, especially when you're trying to sort your way through seeing something and understanding something, I feel like there's something that goes on where you can feel like a volatility emotionally, or even a vulnerability emotionally, because you feel these certain things that are pulling you so strongly. And then when you look behind it, it's like the devil was back there with a magnet, like pulling you that way. And temperance is about how you're going to sort of like demagnetize something to make it not so intense. And there isn't like an inherent issue with intensity, but when the devil involves, it speaks about something going on that you can look at and feel like it's not totally right, or it's not totally aligned, and that being problematic. That this is something that tempts you, but something that will also hinder you, something that will also bind you in a way that you don't want to be bound, in a way that takes away your freedom, in a way that takes away your liberation, and not just like I want to be free and I don't want to commit to anything, but more so in a way where you lose your agency. You can lose your agency when the devil is involved, in figuring out like what's actually going on here and taking a deeper look. And this feels like whatever it was that had started amping that up, Four of Swords feels like de-escalating that. So something, it feels like it gets like really high up and really intense, and then Four of Swords feels like whatever coping strategy it is that you use, or whatever you want to call it, to bring it back to being at like a normal level where that intensity sort of dies down. So you're not like manifesting from that place, which I feel like if you're understanding what I'm saying in this reading with the devil, you're going to know that this is not coming from like a really high spiritual place. This is coming from like more of a carnal place with the devil. And so it sort of is disconnected a bit from other parts of you, and that's how you'll know that something isn't all right here. And it feels very much like before I go to take action and do this thing, again, like King of Wands can be the part of you that just wants to do something, you know, like get all in whatever that is. Having Hermit here shows an ability that you have now to take a step back and to look at things and really undress them in a way where you can understand what's happening. So you can see clearly, why was I feeling that way and what was going on? And it feels very much too like there could have been something going on within something that you were presenting, something that you were feeling, just a move that you wanted to make based off of what you were feeling, something you were receiving, depending on what side of this you're on. But more so about like what's motivating the moves that you're making and what's behind what it is that you're saying. And is this an energy that's grounded and regulated, or is this an energy that's dysregulated? This does show too that whatever this is that calls to you, there is like a polar attraction here, and it's showing you where you're in some sort of extreme and this other thing is in some sort of extreme, and then why it gets pulled like that because of not being more so in the middle. It's just like a process that's happening. Having Magician here feels like you get to choose what comes of this ultimately, and that if you are in that heightened state that feels disconnected from other parts of you, that you can manifest in that place, but it can do things to other areas of your life that you don't want to do. I feel like there's more to it than that, but I almost feel like that's just as far as we're going right now with this. Boundaries, having to work with a very intense energy that can be difficult to work within, because again, you can feel like you get very sucked into it. It's like how somebody can talk about like getting really angry about something and then seeing red, or like they blacked out and they didn't know what happened. Like that can be the influence of the devil. I'm not saying like specifically in that way, but it can be sort of this like frenzy that happens with the devil, and how you can walk that way and start that thing. And I wonder too, like coming back to this like tomb being unsealed essentially, I wonder if this is something that like when you get too close to it in a certain way, and when you like take the cap off of it, you see that it's just as potent what comes out, and so that's why you sort of have to keep a lid on something, just so things can stay regulated. Otherwise it feels like stuff gets kind of out of hand and out of control. And as I said before, like you'll know that there's a difference between feeling like grounded and empowered and all connected with the things that you're doing, and there's a liberation within that, and there's an agency within that, versus when you find yourself in the mix with something that you feel like it just takes control over me. And you know that's a different type of process that's happening. And it's more so something that comes from a place of materialism. Enough said for now with this. I do feel like you're understanding what's going on. I don't think that this is something that it's a like problem that this energy is there. I think that this reading is more so about like if that energy is there and you can't like destroy it and it's just going to be there, like how do you work your way through where you don't lose your agency, and this thing doesn't take control over you where you feel like you're powerless within your own life, within this relationship. And having temperance here is like whatever practice it is that you need to do in order to keep this under control, if that's what you want to do. Unless this is something that you want to unleash within your life, and then it can like sort of wreak havoc, and that's just going to be another process that you learn through, like sort of what happens when you give your agency away to something and allow the undertaking to occur. There isn't a wrong way. It's just that the devil may, if you go that path, there may be consequences that you don't necessarily want, and now can be a time when you really think about that. And so it does feel like regulating before moving forward and before taking action is really the way to go. I don't see you needing to stop doing anything as far as like burn that bridge. I'm not seeing it be like that. It's just you need to moderate. You need to not be like pedal to the metal here. This needs to be something where I don't know if you need to have some sort of check to make things slow down. It's like when something already, when you're in a big vehicle and you're already going downhill, you're not going to be pressing on the gas, and the devil is like, press on the gas, press on the gas, like let's go even faster here. It's like, rather, if you know you're already going downhill with something, like the inertia already goes in that direction, your foot needs to be on the brake and you need to tap it sometimes. And so this feels like one of those things where it's not like going uphill. This is something where you go downhill, so it's very easy to pick up speed, and so you have to tap on the brake. That's where your foot needs to be, metaphorically speaking, with this. So it's not saying you can't go down the hill. It's saying that if you want to hit the gas while you're going down the hill, you may go off-roading and you may not like where that takes you. And so this is something where if you already know that it's a situation, you can see the hill, you can see that you're going down the hill, put your foot on the brake. And again, you don't need to stop, you just need to slow it down and keep things tempered. That's essentially it with this. Because this is something that can get very out of control. And then it is something that ends up trapping you within that. It's like, the faster, if you go at like a moderate speed down something, you keep control of the vehicle, but the faster you go, the more easy it is to lose control. And so this is when you're going down a steep hill, how do you handle the vehicle? It doesn't mean you can't go down the hill, it just means that, like, what do you need to do in order to have control over something that's very steep is you need to go maybe a little bit slower than you usually would, because this is a special situation, okay? Because you're working with an intense energy here, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you don't need to be scared of it. It just means that this is something that there's like the energy sort of can take the upper hand if you're not. This is one of those times when you have to consciously be aware the whole time because of how the energy can really get out of control. But if you are willing to be there and be present to it, that's not going to happen. But know that this will be strenuous. It's going to be like a workout for you going through this, energetically speaking. And again, like, that's not anything that you need to shy away from. I'm not seeing anything where it's like, close it out, stop doing it. I'm not seeing anything like that. It's more so temper it. And it will be like pretty much a constant effort because the energies just want to collide like that because you're working with an intensity. This is a very like deep, dark, intense polarity that you're working with, and that's why the pull feels that way. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's just the nature of it. And you get to see yourself as being the one that can keep the upper hand of this situation rather than losing yourself to it. But that's where all of this is coming from. That's where all of these feelings and these thoughts are coming from. That's what's going on. I feel like you're seeing things clearly at this point. You're understanding why you feel pulled to go faster down the hill. Like, because that speed can feel good. It can feel very limitless when you're doing it. And then as soon as you're like, wait, we should slow down a little bit, I'm starting to feel out of control, there can be that panic of, I went too fast, I did too much, and you want to rein it back. And like, the faster you're going, the harder it is to slow down when you already have that speed, so just keep it level. Because basically too, like, what's happening at this time, the exchanges that are happening even, they're going to be, I'm seeing Mercury on the bottom of the deck. That means things are going to manifest of this. And so you are controlling sort of what is karmically going to unfold. So be aware, mindful. And that means too that with this kind of thing, if you're going down a hill and you can't just be like cruising without your feet on the pedal, and you know that you have to be very aware at the steering wheel and you have to have your foot on the brake for when you need to tap it, you know that you really need to be present when you're going down that hill. So that means that if you're checking in with yourself and you're like, I don't have the bandwidth right now, or I'm not in a place right now, like high energy enough right now, or battery charged enough to be able to handle going down that hill right now, it can be a time where you have to take another route sometimes. Or like for that day, you know? Depending on the energy. It's like a weather forecast, kind of, with where your energy level is, and that will determine, you know, like when you're ready to be in that intensity, you can enter into it, and when you're not, know your limits and your boundaries. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.